Welcome back. We're now in Photoshop. I've exported my TIFFs. I have those in a folder. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring them all into Photoshop and load them as one single file as layers. So I'm going to go down to File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack. I'm going to browse for them. And they are in my output folder. That's where they wind up. So I'm going to take, these are my 7 TIFFs. I could attempt to automatically align source images. These were shot on a tripod, so I know they're pretty much right on top of each other. It'll take a little longer to do the alignment, and sometimes the alignment just makes things goofy and doesn't work right anyway. But I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to let that do its thing for a minute. And it's starting to bring files in now. I'm going to take my ambience and put them down the bottom. And these are my lighting layers. So what I did, you see the outside is like super dark. I was shooting these at a very high shutter speed because I wanted to get just the flashed images here, the flashed portion of the image. I don't want to get additional ambient light in here. So this is my way of isolating them. So these are I lit various parts of the image that I thought needed it based on what the ambient shot looked like. So what I'm going to do here now, these 5 lighting layers, I'm going to hold down my Alt key and I'm going to apply a black mask to them. It's going to hide them temporarily. And I'm going to keep those hidden and work on my ambient images for a minute here. So what I have my light image on top of my darker image. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the light image off to the right of the file name. I'm going to double click and it's going to bring up my layer style dialog box. Now what I want to do, I just want to apply, the only parts of this bright image I want to use are the very darkest parts of it. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key and I'm going to separate the dark slider from the underlying portion of here, of this dialog box, and slide that way over. And what that did, that applied that light image only to the darker areas, which is what I wanted on the stairs and some of the shadow areas. And it gradually took it off of highlighted areas. So it doesn't even apply to the brightest areas of my image. And what it did, it's kind of a subtle effect, but you could see it really brightened things up. It made things look a little less dingy. And it got us about 80% of the way there, I think. So now we're going to go and take a look at these lighting layers. If I hold down my shift key and click on the layer mask, I could see the effect. I could disable the layer mask temporarily and see, okay, I'm looking at where am I going to paint with my brush. So I'm going to get a brush. I'm going to go back to white. I'm going to put my flow at 10%. Let's make my brush a little bigger. And now I could paint in here. Oops, you see what I did there? Made a mistake. The mistake was I want to put this in lighten mode, not normal. And what lighten is going to do, it's only going to allow me to paint in the pixels that are brighter than the ones underneath it. I actually want to bring that down to 5%. And now you see I'm brightening up those areas. I've also brightened up that window reflection, but that's something I could take care of later. Let's go down the next layer. And we have the back hallway. Let's bring that up. It's starting to look pretty good already. And this is not going to be a final image yet. This is actually going to be ready for the proof stage. So there's another lighting pop inside this office back here. I'm going to brighten that up. And then reflection is starting to bother me back there, but we'll take care of that again in a second. Okay, I did another one back there in the hallway. Let's bring that in. You see, it's taking care of some of that reflection, but I still want to get rid of the rest of that reflection. Okay, where's this last one? This last one's up in the hallway up here. This was kind of dark, so I wanted to definitely brighten that up a little bit. And there, I've gotten rid of a lot of that orangey dark tinge. So this reflection is mostly coming from this top image. So I'm going to get my brush, make it a little smaller, hit X to make it black, and I'm going to paint that mask back in again. So we're not getting so much of it in that reflection. Still a little bit of reflection. Where's it coming from? It's coming from not that one, not that one. It's coming from this one here. So we'll paint that back in again. You see, that's that room. So I want to go make my brush a little smaller yet. Go back to white. And we can paint that in. So this is not perfect yet. Again, this may be ready for the proofing stage. I would come back if they do pick this as a final image. I'm going to take all this stuff off the ceiling here, and I could do some other color corrections. We're getting a little bit of an orange tinge from these lights. Actually, what we could do, let's group these together, G, and we'll name that lighten. And we could actually, at this point, we could turn it on and off altogether and see the difference it made. But I think I want to add, this is another thing I do just about every image. I add a hue and saturation layer, usually right above my ambience. And I'll go through these one at a time, turn it all the way up, and see which colors don't really belong. And there's some magenta in here I probably don't want, but there's some of it in that rug that probably belongs there. So I'm going to turn it down. And it already applied a mask to it. So I want to get my brush in black. And I want to, let's turn this flow back up a little more. I want to make sure that magenta stays in that rug and really comes off of everything else. So let's see what other colors we don't want here. Blues. Some of the blues might want to stay in the outside of the image there, but definitely not on these walls. If I crank it all the way up, you can see on these walls here that it's picking up blue from outside. Now, I definitely don't want that. So this is an easy way to just get rid of all that. Let's try cyan. Now some of the cyan I want to keep. I want to keep outside. I don't want it to look monochromatic outside, but the inside I definitely want. So I may choose to just do a cyan correction on its own. And then green. Let's just take a look at green real fast. Greens I probably don't want, although I do want it in those plants. So and again, I'm going to take my brush in black. And I'm going to paint over the leaves of the plant, make sure they stay green. And again, let's make sure we keep the magentas here in that rug. Okay, so that did a lot for us, I think. It didn't take out all of that red cast, but we can go back to it. Let's see what happens if we do get our custom finger tool and drag that down. Now that's getting rid of that tinge, but it's also getting rid of the wood grain color. So let's leave that there for now. We can make another adjustment layer. And I wanted to take away the cyan. Cyan, we're getting a lot of cyan. It's outside. I want to keep it outside, but I want to take it off of the ceiling and stuff. So let's make this whole thing black. And then we could do is paint white on our mask and just apply it to where we want it. We're not going to apply it to outside. But there was some, probably don't want to go over the leaves again on the plants. But I wanted to take it off of the ceiling mostly because it was coming from outside. That looks pretty good. Kind of subtle, but I think overall, I think it's something I want to keep. And there you have it. I think that's pretty good to go to proofing. Again, I would do some other tweaks if they were to select this as a final image, but I think for right now, I think we're pretty much there.